I am here with my friend Maya Gottfried, the author of Vegan Love. We're having morning coffee, and we're going to have a chat about the book.
Yay.
Thank you for coming to visit me
Thank
in
you for having
snowy
me.
Providence.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you, Maya.
lovely and snowy.
Yay! We're ready for spring though. So tell me what you learned in researching and writing this book, because this has way more than your own experience in here.
Right, so in writing Vegan Love, I had experienced when dating that it was much different as a vegan than before I was vegan, the dating world. So I wanted to write a book about it. And I had my own experience to speak from, but I really didn't want to be a guru. Mm-hmm. I feel like there are plenty of gurus in the world, and we don't need more of them. And to me, the collective wisdom, the collective experience of a lot of different people is so valuable. We learn so much just from everyone's experience on Earth. So I wanted to bring as much of that collective wisdom into the book as I could. So I interviewed more than 36 people when I was writing Vegan Love to find out what their collective wisdom was. And it was really interesting because in doing that, it became a much different book than if I had only written out of my own experience. Because I had views that were based on whatever ideas I had that I had brought into my experience, but weren't necessarily everyone's truth, basically. So what I found when I started talking to people was that over and over again, what I heard was that when people lived as an example of a healthy, happy vegan and were kind and gentle with their dates and partners, overwhelmingly, like over and over again, I heard that their dates and partners moved in a vegan direction. Mm-hmm. It was so inspiring to me because it was really evidence that love spreads. And we're, not to get political, but we're living
We're gonna get political.
But we're living in a time when you turn on the radio or the TV and it's just there's so much hatred. There's so much hatred, and I just love that there was this evidence of love growing and spreading, and that you don't win the war by fighting a war. So yeah, it concludes with a little piece called "Make Vegan Love, Not War." Yeah, so I learned that. I learned that vegan love spreads, and that was the most important thing that I learned. And I also learned that for most people, it was really important to let their dates know right away that they were vegan, because most dates revolve around food. And when I set out to write the book, the feedback I received from people in the publishing world was that they really wanted to hear horror stories about dating as a vegan, and they wanted to hear the funny story about the vegan who goes on a date with a meat eater and the date orders steak and how did that turn out? And I found the total opposite, that there were very few horror stories, and in fact, essentially the reason there were not a lot of horror stories is that the people who I interviewed, if someone showed a sign of that they were going to make them feel bad about being vegan in some way, they just really gently let those people go. Yeah. They just let them drift away. They didn't have to give them a lecture or get into fight.
Yeah, no need for a confrontation. This is not going to work.
Exactly.
Have a nice life.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So the people I interviewed for this book basically did that. And the one horror story I heard was a woman who actually didn't want to be included in the book, so I just share this story sometimes. And she wants to stay anonymous, but this one horror story was that she was afraid to tell her date that she was vegan. So she went on a date. There was food involved. They were lounging together, and her date ordered all these dishes, and she couldn't eat any of them. None of them were vegan because she was afraid to tell him that she was vegan. So she sat there suffering, not being able to eat anything, feeling like she had to hide a part of herself that was so beautiful.
Yeah.
Because of her fear. It was because of her fear. And yeah, I thought it was really interesting that was the one horror story, was like just living in fear and not,
not being herself.
Yes. Yeah. So those were some of the things I learned. And a lot of people, like when I'm talking to people about the book and speaking about it at Veg Fests, a lot of people really, I think a lot of us vegans want to know how we can turn our partners vegan. It's like a big question, like how do I get my partner to go vegan? And can I turn my partner vegan? And the answer I found in interviewing these dozens of people was that it's yes and no. Yes and no, you can turn your partner vegan. And what I found was, so in the majority of the couples that I talked to, or even when people were just dating someone, a non-vegan partner will tend to definitely move in a vegan direction just from being around the vegan partner or date. And if the vegan's prepared to like answer questions in a nice, gentle, informative way when they get asked questions, like that's great. Or if you have a film on hand to watch, when you're hanging out at home, like, and your partner shows some curiosity, it's like, oh, I happen to have, Cowspiracy here, Forks Over Knives, let's just pop it in the DVD player. I guess people don't watch DVDs anymore, but maybe put it on Netflix. I'm showing my age, so yeah. Anyway, so yes, over and over again, the people I spoke with shared that their non-vegan partners moved in a vegan direction. However, what almost everybody shared was that if you push your partner to be vegan, they are probably not going to respond well to that. I mean, like, who wants to be told what to do by someone they love? Like, no one likes that. No one likes it when their mom tells them what. I mean, maybe a few people do, but I don't like it when the people I love tell me what to believe and what to do and how I should be different. I mean, that makes me crazy.
I feel like it's the number one rule, guideline about being in a relationship is don't try to change the other person. You can't get with someone being like, okay, well, you'll be the perfect partner for me when we've achieved A, B, and C personality changes. Like, you have to accept your partner where you are at, where you are at and where they are at, or else it's not going to work.
Yeah, and that's really hard for a lot of us who are vegan because we feel so strongly, that no one should be eating animals or animal products, and it can be really challenging when you're in a relationship not to try to change them because we are so passionate about it. But it's really like you're going to better your chances of your partner going vegan if you're gentle about it and live by example, for sure. And it really happens, like, one of my favorite examples in the book is J.L. Fields, the author. I interviewed her twice for the book because the first time I interviewed her husband was not vegan, and she was
not vegetarian, right?
Oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember. At the time I interviewed her, he may have been vegetarian, but I don't remember exactly where he was.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he ate meat when they got together. They've been together a long time.
Yeah. So when they got together, he was definitely omnivore.
Oh, so was she, I guess. Anyway, hi, JL.
JL, I'm trying to remember but so the first time I interviewed her, they had been together for a very long time, and I'm not sure where he was in his path, but she said that, she said she believed that everybody has their moment. And that, she had faith that he would, I'm summarizing, these are not exactly your words, Jay. But she was saying, everyone has their moment, and she thought he would have his moment too. And she was just, gentle sharing of information, living as a wonderful example. But she knew that if she tried to get him to go vegan, like, it wasn't gonna work. And then I was, towards the end of working on the book, and I was in touch with JL, and she was like, there's news. And when I spoke with her, she was like, yeah, he went vegan.
Yay!
Yeah, and I love that because she totally, she just had confidence that everyone finds their way, and you see that in so many different things, like when people are struggling with addiction, it's so easy to try to take over their lives and control everything. Like, I know what's best for you. I'm going to do this. And people really need to find their own way. And sometimes that means instead of completely taking over their lives, completely cutting off from them, right? We see that in addiction.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that it's the exact same thing, but it's along a similar vein. Like, our instinct may be to try to make them vegan.
Yeah.
But living as a good example is actually much more productive in as far as that's concerned. Yeah, and taking them to good vegan restaurants. I mean, yeah.
Don't take them to the not good vegan
Yeah.
restaurants.
Yeah, don't give them a bowl of steamed vegetables for dinner.
And be like, isn't this delicious? Don't you want to go vegan with me?
Yeah.
That's not a good strategy.
No, yeah, you want to like really knock their socks off with like amazing vegan food. There's another woman, Danielle Legg. Do you know Danielle?
Oh, Danielle's my bud.
Yeah, Danielle's amazing and has been vegan for a long time. And she, for a while, was only exclusively dating other vegans. She was living in New York City. And then she decided she would open her heart to omnivores, too. And I think it was very hard for her. And when she did, she met a man who lived kind of close to her, and he was a total unapologetic omnivore. I mean, 100% meat eater. And but she would sometimes, when they went out to dinner, she'd pick one of her favorite vegan restaurants. Then he started requesting to go to the vegan restaurants. And what I always say to people is, every meal that he ate at a vegan restaurant, like, no, it wasn't perfect. Yes, animals are still suffering, but fewer animals died because of that meal. Like, that's one less animal who's being killed, because an omnivore went to a vegan restaurant. I mean, I may be getting my math wrong here. I'm just saying that because she started inspiring him to eat vegan, that's the needle moving. Mm-hmm. And if the needle moves far enough, those are lives being saved. And that is real progress. And I know not everyone feels that kind of slow progress is going to get us to where we need to be. But I'm telling you that this guy was not going to go vegan overnight. And that was real progress for this person. And I'm not going to tell anyone what to believe, but to me it's like really encouraging when I can see lots of small progress like that in relationships with people eating more vegan, because if there's enough little bits of progress, then we get like huge progress. So to me that was really inspiring. Yeah.
So I want to offer some advice for new vegans because I'm thinking back, 8 years ago when I first went vegan, and I did date a couple of vegans when I first went vegan, and obviously they weren't the right person for me in other ways, but I always was on the fence about should I date omnivores or not, mm-hmm. or so what would be your primary piece of advice for someone who is afraid that, you had mentioned that someone said to you when you went vegan, like, oh, this might not be the best, lifestyle choice for someone who is single and, in their 30s and hoping to, meet their life partner. So what do you say to someone who's worried about that, who's newly vegan, committed to being vegan, but like is worried about, the shrinking of the dating pool potentially?
Yeah. Okay. So I have two bits of advice, and they both come back to the same thing, which is that the thing it comes back to is like it's really important to look inside yourself and realize what's important to you, and live authentically. So when someone said that to me when I was starting to, I had cancer and re-entered the dating pool as kind of a new vegan, and someone said that to me, and I realized that the veganism was a really beautiful part of me, actually.
Yeah.
And that I was saving animals' lives. I was, as a cancer survivor, I was saving my own life. We're all saving our own lives by being vegan.
Yeah.
And we're saving the planet, right? Why would we want to hide that part? It's like being vegan's an amazing quality. And I found that the warning was completely unfounded. I didn't date anyone who gave me a hard time about being vegan. In fact, people found it a really attractive quality in me and were curious about it. And I have a friend who comes into town. I'm in a long-term relationship. This isn't someone I'm dating, but I have a friend who comes into town, and every time they do, they're so excited that we're going to go out to a good vegan meal. I mean, this is like a really great quality. It's when we get insecure or angry at a person before we give them a chance that is not so attractive. The fear is not attractive, and the anger is not attractive. But when we're living confidently, this is an amazing part of me, people are attracted to that generally. And if they're not someone you want in your life, so let them go. If they think it's a bad thing, let them go, because there are plenty of people out there who are going to think it's an amazing thing. And the other thing is that if you're trying to decide whether to only date other vegans or whether to open your heart to an omnivore, also comes back to being your authentic self. Because truly what I found is that it's really different for everybody. Some of us, it's going to be just excruciating to sit down across the table from someone who's having a coffee with cow's milk in it or eating a burger that's not vegan. For some of us, it's going to just completely make us miserable. And if you're going to feel miserable on a date with someone, then don't subject yourself to it. But for some of us, we're comfortable with it. It's okay. It just depends on the individual. And in those cases, if you are comfortable dating an omnivore, I say that's great, because vegan love spreads, and that omnivore is probably going to have a much better chance of becoming vegan if they're in a relationship with you. So you can be one of the ambassadors. It's just different for everyone. And in both, going out into the dating world and being afraid, and also in deciding who to date, it just all comes back to being your authentic self.
Yeah, so I deliberately wore this Kermit suit. Let me show you it. It was given to me by a former boyfriend who is wonderful, and he just moved away. That's why we broke up. Vegetarian, now vegan, by the way. I'm wearing this on camera, even though I'm sure somebody thinks I look ridiculous. Because who cares? I feel comfortable. I am nice and warm and toasty. I'm being who I am. And, guess what? By being who I am, I eventually, met a partner I'm really happy with. So there you go. Don't hide your light under a bushel or whatever. Whatever the expression is. Thank you so much for chatting with me about your wonderful book.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All vegan dating, single vegans, and also vegans who are planning a wedding. There's also a ton of tips, cruelty-free makeup, all that good stuff. Check out this book. It is wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Maya.
Thank you for having me.
Yay. If you want more videos, more books and more videos about all aspects of veganism and creativity, please subscribe. Have a good day, and thanks for watching.